Good morning, and we are in Doctrine and Covenants 81. Thought I'd go for the ideas for learning at home and at church. One thing is that I'll sometimes spend ages just going through the material that they have here, and there is a lot in here. As you see in the reading on this section called "Thou wilt do the greatest good unto thy fellow beings," you go into section 81 and 82 and 83. There's several passages in Doctrine and Covenants 81 through 83. The Lord invites us to help people in need around us, and consider marking these passages as you find them. One of the most descriptive examples is in Doctrine and Covenants 81, 4 through 5. And here are some questions that you can ponder, help you ponder these verses. What are some of the ways that people can be weak? What does it mean to succor them? When has Christ-like service of others helped me when I felt weak? What might cause a person's hands to figuratively hang down? How can I lift up those hands? What might feeble needs mean, and how are they strengthened? How does the Savior do these things for you? Perhaps studying this verse has brought to mind someone you could succor, lift up, or strengthen. What will you do to minister to that person? What else do you learn about service to others? And that goes to 82. And then there's the video of Thomas S. Monson. I remember this one. It's not a new video because Thomas S. Monson's not been alive for some time, but I'm talking about the widows that he helps out, and a specific story of at least one. Anyway, these questions are really good to ponder. Like I say, I got so caught up in a lot of the stuff that was in here. And on the side, you have, on the right-hand side, you have the little picture boxes. And if you click on those, you come up with some different things. Tips for finding personal strength and helping others doesn't go to a link right now. But carrying a global initiative to improve the well-being for women and children does go to an article about the Relief Society, and there's quite a lot in there. It's worth going through. I went through it, but I thought if I do that, we'll make this video way too long. And it took me over a half an hour to even get to the scriptures that we're going to read. So I'm going to click on this and just go through the first part of section 81. Like I said, it's not a lot of reading, but there's a lot in here. I think we've talked about Frederick G. Williams a little bit in the past. He will die in 1842, and serves in the first presidency until 1837, I believe, which then he's replaced with Hiram Smith. And not sure everything that went on there because he's still a member of the church loses his membership in 1839 and then regains it again. So I'm not sure everything that went on in Frederick G. Williams's life. Apparently, one thing that affected him was his health. And he dies in Quincy, Ohio, where it seems that his family came from. So that's just a few facts. I didn't want to go into it too much. And then this is the explanation. We kind of explained this yesterday, but we'll read through it really quick. Frederick G. Williams is called to be a high priest and a counselor in the presidency of the high priesthood. The historical records show that when this revelation was received in 1832, it called Jesse Goss to the office of counselor to Joseph Smith in the presidency. However, when he failed to continue in a manner consistent with the appointment, the call was subsequently transferred to Frederick G. Williams. The revelation, dated March 1832, should be regarded as a step toward the formal organization of the first presidency, specifically calling for the office of counselor in that body and explaining the dignity of the appointment. Brother Goss served for a time but was excommunicated from the church in December 1832. Brother Williams was ordained to the specified office in March 18th, 1833. So you see that it's a while away, from basically a year away before Brother Williams would actually be called to this position anyway. Verily, verily I say unto you, my servant Frederick G. Williams, listen to the voice of him who speaketh, to the word of the Lord your God, and hearken to the calling wherewith ye are called. I love the way that it says, hearken to the calling wherewith ye are called. As you probably notice, I've been marking listen and hearken in these things, because it seems very important to remember to listen to the Lord and what he's saying. But this one I thought it was interesting that hearken was to the calling wherewith ye are called, even to be a high priest in my church and a counselor unto my servant Joseph Smith Jr. How can we hearken to the calling wherewith we are called if we're in a calling? If we're in a calling, how do we hearken to that calling? I think it's an interesting way of putting it. I never really thought of it, but perhaps the way that we hearken to the calling, and this is something that I think about when I get called to something. How do I prepare? What do I do? One thing I often do will go to the General Handbook and read about it, or if there is any training, which often there is on the websites and things, they'll give a training session. Go through that to see what your calling is what's expected of you in your calling, and learn about it, not just do what you I'm just thinking, like, right now I'm in the Sunday school presidency. Is there things that I can learn more about it than just thinking, oh, we just help the teachers teach or whatever? We can look at it that way, or we can really hearken or listen deeply to what it's about. Learn from those. Make sure you get the training that you need, or I've been in presidencies, Sunday school presidencies, and I've been Sunday school president before, so it's not like it's new to me. But what can I learn this time around that might help the calling more than I did in previous times? So I like that. Hearken to the calling wherewith you are called. Take the time to immerse yourself in the callings that you're called. Unto whom I've given the keys of the kingdom, which belong always to the presidency of the high priesthood. And that could be quite a discussion about keys. And who has what keys. Obviously, this is talking about the keys, which we understand today to be anything that is needed to direct the church, because at this time, the keys that are given, the keys of the kingdom, are not complete. They have many keys that aren't given until the temple is built. And so there's a lot there. And we won't go into keys of the presidency right now as much. But again, like I said, I spent ages before this going down, I would say, rabbit holes, just going down different avenues of what there is in here. There's so much in these that you can just pick up on. Therefore, verily I acknowledge him and will bless him and also thee. So acknowledge who? Joseph Smith. And bless him and also thee. Frederick G. Williams. Inasmuch as thou art faithful in counsel, in the office which I have appointed you to, in prayer always. I feel like I need to read that over because I feel like it's very, inasmuch as thou art faithful in counsel, in the office which I have appointed you, in prayer always, vocally and in thy heart, in public and in private, also in thy ministry, in proclaiming the gospel in the land of the living among thy brethren. So these are the things that he needs to look at: be faithful in counsel, and in the office, and in his prayers, and in proclaiming the gospel. In doing these things, thou wilt do the greatest good unto thy fellow beings, and wilt promote the glory of him who is your Lord. I think this can be taken for any time we serve in the church at any capacity. Thou wilt do the greatest good unto thy fellow beings, and wilt promote the glory of him who is your Lord. I like to think about it because it mentions ministry up here. What if we apply this to being ministers? We've started using that name for almost 4 or 5 years or something. I don't know how long. It seems like about 5 years or something, using ministering instead of home teaching, visiting teaching, and things like that. Let's just think of it in the sense of that. And in doing our ministering, doing these things, thou wilt do the greatest good unto thy fellow beings, and wilt promote the glory of him who is your Lord. When we do our ministering, we can do our greatest good there. And, it's not just a simple thing of, I'm just visiting somebody, or just writing to somebody, or calling them once in a while, or whatever. We have the power from the Lord to be inspired on how we may help them, how we may approach them better, or how we can share with them better and what their needs are, if we hearken to that calling as a minister, if we really take it to heart and share with the people, keep them in our prayers. Remember, it says here, prayer always, vocally in the heart, public and private. If you're doing that in your ministering, then you'll find that you can do your greatest good and promote the glory of him who is your Lord. And I really believe that. Ministering is sometimes just put, everybody's got a ministering call or whatever, and sometimes that's all they have. They don't have a church calling as such. Well, you do. You have ministry. It's an assignment, but it's still one of the most important assignments that you can have. And if you approach it as that, as a calling almost, you're not set apart, but you're assigned because you've already been, it comes with your membership, basically. You will do some really good. Wherefore be faithful and stand in the office which I have appointed you, and succor the weak, lift up the hands which hang down, and strengthen the feeble knees. And as we've heard again and again from the pulpit, when we minister to people, it doesn't always mean the people who are on our assigned list either. But those we look after, and we can look after other people as well in the same way. And if we were looking for those things, and we pray for those things, the Lord will help us to know who we can help out and whose hands we can lift. Like I said before, there is an article on the Relief Society and the things that they can do, and the millions of children and mothers that they help. But I just want us to be able to reach out to those around us a little bit more. And in the article in the Relief Society, it talks about all these global things that they're doing, and then it comes right down to the last verse, or a little quote at the end that says, when you're reaching out to those around you and helping that neighbor, or I'm paraphrasing, so don't say it's a quote, but helping your neighbor or doing something kind for those around you, you are furthering this work. And I think that is where it's at, is bringing this down to our level. It might have been for somebody in the first presidency, but it's also for each individual of us. And I think this is a great place to stop at this time, because I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that what you can do is you can think on who you can help, whose knees might be weak, or help those whose hands may hang down. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.